Trump administration walking back Elon Musk's weekend ultimatum to federal workers. The Office of Personnel Management sending a memo to the heads of all federal departments and agencies explaining that it is not mandatory for workers to respond to Musk's demand, explaining what they did in the last week. We have seen an uproar from federal employees and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, protests against the layoffs erupting in Washington, D.C. And at the same time, Elon Musk is releasing the DOGE Efficiency Leaderboard. These are the agencies where DOGE found the most savings for the federal government. NewsNation's Kelly Meyer joining us live from the White House. Kelly, what are you hearing from federal workers on all this morning?
Yeah, we're hearing from several federal workers this morning that some workers aren't able to get into the garage to even park their car because some can't access certain elevators or the garage due to whether it's the return to office mandate and their cards haven't worked or they were laid off potentially. We also heard a story where two colleagues got stuck on an elevator and had to call the police to get them out because they were in that probationary period. So again, this could be folks just returning to the office for that return to work mandate and haven't used their personal cards in a while, or it could be these folks that are fired or losing access due to these layoffs. Either way, Marky, it's adding to confusion, and we've seen the lines, the backup ourselves at the Department of Labor, for example, this morning and yesterday morning. So this all comes as Elon Musk is essentially doubling down this morning, despite the Trump administration overall walking back on the requirement. Musk took to his platform X last night and said this, quote, subject to the discretion of the president, they will be given another chance. Failure to respond a second time will result in termination. But the Office of Personnel Management shared this memo a short time later, telling federal agencies it's up to them to decide what action should be taken. They did add, though, that they could review responses and evaluate those non-responses and should consider whether the, quote, accomplishment bullets should be integrated into the agency's weekly activity report. Now, Musk's weekend tweet set off a firestorm in Washington and across the country. It got backlash from both Democrats and Republicans and support from Trump cabinet members, some of them sharing their own 5 things on X. The president himself putting his support behind Musk.
We have people that don't show up to work and nobody even knows if they work for the government. So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired.
And we're still watching to see what action these agencies may take for those non-responses. We know the deadline has passed, but there are still some agencies that are directing their employees to fill out those bullets.
Right. And so what are we hearing from some of those employees, Kelly, workers caught in the middle of all this?
Yeah, and really since we've started seeing these cuts, we've been getting messages from folks either impacted by the cuts or those still there and seeing their longtime colleagues let go. I got this from a federal worker sharing this from the Health and Human Services Department, sharing an email they got at closing time last night. It told employees that there's no expectation that employees respond to the email and that there is no impact to your employment with the agency if you choose not to respond. But then it goes on to say, if you choose to respond, here are the guidelines, including this one, quote, assume that what you write will be read by malign foreign actors and tailor your response accordingly. And another federal agency worker told me she watched nurses who weren't on the schedule to work on Monday come in with their kids just to fill out their bullet points because the firewalls didn't allow them to get their email on their home computers. So they had this anxiety that they had to come in on their day off or risk being let go. And that worker is concerned about the services ultimately that could be impacted for different departments, especially for veterans groups, telling me, quote, making things efficient is one thing, shrinking and crippling is another. Ultimately, they are taking away protection and support for Americans. That is what I am most concerned about. So I continue to get messages here, Marni, from several federal workers that are kind of caught in the chaos that is happening with this question over whether they should fill out this form or not.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.